How's it going, everybody? I'm Jason with Fuzzlord, and in this week's video we're going to be checking out the Fuzzlord Effects Drone Master pedal, which is our version of the classic Rat. We're going to be talking about the design of the old school Rat a little bit. I want to talk about the famous LM308 chip and my thoughts on that and what that contributes to the sound. And then towards the end of the video, we're going to check out a little time-lapse footage of a bunch of the Drone Masters getting wired up to some background music that has a little bit of the Drone Master on it. So if that sounds interesting to you, I think you're going to want to stick around and watch this video. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jason Johnson and I run Fuzzlord Effects, and on this channel we do a bunch of tech talks about different pedals, Fuzzlord and non-Fuzzlord pedals. We do some gear demos from time to time, and we do time-lapse footage, as well as just keeping up what's going on at the shop here at Fuzzlord. If you haven't been over yet, be sure you check out the Instagram page at Fuzzlord Effects. And for all orders of the pedal, or if you want to know when things are coming out, my build schedule, what's available and what's not available, head on over to fuzzlordeffects.com. And if you like these videos and you want to be sure that you don't miss out on any of the weekly videos, hit subscribe, and you can check that little bell next to it, so that way it emails you, gives you a notification whenever I put a new video out. So if you like the video, be sure you subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below. I always like to hear from you, know where you're watching from, and maybe something you liked about the video. And here's the question of the day. Do you like Rats or Big Muffs better? Most people kind of have a preference. I think they fill a similar need on a pedal board. A lot of people like both, but Garrett from Winhand apparently used a Little Big Muff for one part of his sound, and then for a while he was using a Rat. So I kind of feel like they go in a similar place, you know? So let's get to the video. Old school Rat. It's a really simple pedal and it features a few things. If you want to pull up the schematic to the Proco Rat in the little window next to us, that'd probably be a good thing. I'll try to sneak it in the corner up here while we're talking. So really simple pedal compared to some others. We don't have an input buffer, and we're basically going to run our signal right into that LM308 chip, which is set up with a very textbook gain stage. So we have a gain, I believe it's about 250, 275 or so stock. I set the Fuzzlord Drone Masters to have a gain of about 300. And here's the deal. With these distortion pedals, the way the circuits are set up, the op amp is going to contribute just a little bit of sound to the distortion pedal, because the way they're working is we're actually going to let those op amps hard clip against the power rails before they hit those clipping diodes that come right after the LM308 op amp. So the intrinsic properties of the op amp that you use in these circuits is going to affect the sound just a little bit. I'm not going to say it's going to do it drastically where you can say, oh, that is a 308 and that's a TL07 2, etc. But I will say, looking at the data sheets, that this will affect the sound just a little bit. The classic thing about the LM308 is it has a really slow slew rate. Slow slew rate. Say that again, 3 times fast. Slow slew rate. What that means is slew rate talks about the ability of the output of an op amp to track the input. Oh my God, that makes my brain hurt. Maybe yours too. What that means is the output can only follow the input so fast. Again, what does that mean? High frequencies or fast signals. Make sense? So the low slew rate is going to roll off high end. All right? So if you check out the Electro Smash website, they did a nice little write-up about this that talks about the frequency that you can calculate concerning a slew rate of an op amp. So I'll leave a link to that below, but if you run through the math over there, it shows that the specific slew rate with the LM308, in the way it's configured with the compensation cap, we get a roll off of treble frequencies after about 5.1 kilohertz. Our ears can hear to 20K, if that'll give you a reference, okay? Low to high if we ran a signal generator and just let it sweep. After 5.1, it's gonna start rolling off the high end of our guitar, or whatever we put through it. Versus like a TL071 isn't gonna have that effect until way past what our ears can hear. So the 308 versus a more modern chip is gonna roll off a little bit of high end. Paired with the way the circuit's set up and the filters and stuff, and the way the gain stage is set up to accentuate some frequencies more than others, we're going to lose a little bit of bass, we're going to lose a bit of treble, and then we're going to spike the mids. So that's going to be like a really classic rat sound, you know. High gain, it's going to be hard clipping on the op amp, and then the op amp is going to hard clip a big signal like this, and then it's going to run through those clipping diodes set up right after the op amp, and it's going to get hard clipped and limited even more. And it's going to mimic like a fuzz kind of sound. It's going to be tighter because it's really a hard clipping distortion, and it has a little bit of the bass flub kind of taken out, rolling off that high end and giving us a nice mid hump. It's going to be kind of a tight metal, kind of thrashy kind of sound. The way the Fuzzlord Drone Master is a little different than this is, again, we have that nice big mid hump in the middle, which really sounds good to most guitar players. It's kind of like what a tube screamer does. But one of the toggle switches is going to introduce a mid flip it scoop to the pedal. The Big Muff, famous Big Muff fuzz pedal, has a nice scoop in the mids, which gives us that sound. So that was my design idea, was to give the classic Rat pedal, which has this really nice tight sound versus kind of a loose fuzz, a nice mid hump, but let's be able to turn that into a scoop so we can get more of the Big Muff kind of flavor. So aside from that, the classic Rat just has a very simple tone control following the diode clipping section, and here's all it does. It just takes frequencies, high end frequencies, and dumps them to ground. We turn the pot and it sweeps what frequency it dumps. Like it's a low pass filter, meaning we're gonna pick a frequency, and whatever is lower than that will make it out. Whatever is higher than that will get dumped to ground. So that is the tone pot that we can see set up with the resistor and the cap to ground. Think caps are, in textbook language, are like a short to high frequency. So your high frequencies are going to dump to ground. We turn that knob and that's going to change the cutoff frequency for our filter and change the tone. Following that, Rat's really simple. It just runs into an output buffer, which they use the transistor. On the Fuzzlord Drone Master, we use a TL071 op amp as a buffer because I just think it does a wonderful job as a buffer. It has, they're clean sounding, they have a good current output, and since we're already running an op amp with a 9-volt supply with a reference at 4.5 volts in the middle, we're just really nicely set up to run a second op amp, and buffers don't provide any voltage gain. They do impedance matching, basically. So the buffer at the end of the pedal is there to give the pedal a very low output impedance so that it can drive the next pedal in line well. It's just one of those like good engineering practices at the end of a pedal or a piece of audio gear to have it, make it have a low output impedance so that whatever is we're going to plug it into afterwards, it'll interface with it properly. So hopefully that gives you all just a little bit of an idea of the circuit. You basically just start at that input, and we're going to go through that LM308 setup in the gain stage configuration, which is going to have gain about 250 or so on the classic units. The Fuzzlord ones have gain about 300. And we're going to hard clip that against that LM308 op amp, which is going to roll off some high end due to the low slew rate, because the output can't track the input as fast as some op amps can. If we did the pedal with a TL071 or something similar, we would expect more high end. At least that's what paper is telling me that my ears would hear after we did that. We're going to use some diodes to clip it. In the Fuzzlord Drone Master, there's a toggle switch to choose between no diode clipping, so we just hear that op amp, badass sounding. Stock diode clipping, which is a silicon 1N914. And then there's a red LED 3mm clipping, because they're going to be a little more open sounding, a little bit different of a gain structure kind of sound, and bass players really dig them from what I've been hearing. That's just kind of the people that are often using that. And that is the Drone Master in a nutshell. Super high gain, very high output, tight distortion with the boost in the mids, and we can scoop it to sound more like a muff. We're not going to do a sound demo on this one, everybody. We're going to check out the time-lapse build now, listen to a little background music that has the Drone Master on it, as well as some other pedals. But I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe got a little background info on the Rat, how it works, why the LM308 is still used in so many clones and like different boutique versions of the Rat, why it gives a certain sound, and hopefully this was entertaining and educational to you. So let's check out the time-lapse footage, and then that'll give everybody a minute to comment below and say hello, where you're from, and maybe if you have a preference between the Rat and the Big Muff. Whether you do or not, I think you'd be into the Fuzzlord Effects Drone Master, because we can kind of use that toggle switch to go between the different flavors of, like the Rat has the mid hump and the Big Muff has the mid scoop. And I think that is one of those things that really stands out and makes the two circuits different from each other. So if you want to know more about any of the Fuzzlord Effects pedals, check out fuzzlordeffects.com. You want to see what I'm up to, hit up the Instagram page at Fuzzlord Effects, and I will see you all next week.